know what they're doing, but we do know that they have active programs, certainly former Soviet Union, Russia, China, Israel. A lot of questions about what's going on in these labs all over the world.
All right, let's take a few more calls. We'll go to Monticello, Iowa. First-time caller. Hello, Michelle.
Hello.
Hi, go ahead.
Hi. I was just wondering if the government allows anyone to release chemicals of any kind on our own people of the United States, what is the difference between them and terrorists?
Well, that's a very good question, very astute analysis. I mean, we have a line in our film that says, if you're worried about germs, what you really have to worry about is not the terrorists, but apparently your own government. So I think you're absolutely correct in what you're talking about.
Who was Stephen Dresch?
Stephen Dresch was a private investigator who we met on the Internet because he was asking similar questions as we were. He was looking at the international connections. He was very interested in Bioport. He's from the Michigan area where Bioport did its thing.
Yeah.
And he was from Central Casting. He was a private eye with a long trench coat, and he rode around in a reconverted old Crown Victoria sedan. When we contacted him over the phone and said we'd like to meet, he got in the car and drove 40 hours to meet us in Brooklyn. He began to share information. That was his policy. He's worked with journalists from the Washington Post and the New York Times, et cetera, journalists all over the world. And he introduced us to a worldwide network of people who had information on the germ war world.
So he was the real deal.
Yeah, he was absolutely the real deal. And when we met him, we wanted to make him the central character of our film. And early filming began with him as that, traveling around the world. And he was a big smoker, and so he got lung cancer and passed away during filming. And so he's in the film. We even have a scene where he kind of tells us everything he knows about this world on his sickbed. A very moving scene in the film.
How old was he?
He's in his Bob.
He was in his 60s.
60s.
An amazing guy. And again, one of the things, he was a state legislator in Michigan for 2 years as well, under the Republican Party. But really amazing guy, a truth teller who wanted to get to the bottom of things and fight corruption. And he passed on a lot of his leads, before he died, and that's what we followed up in the film. And he was right. He called it an international bioweapons mafia.
Let's go to Danny in Covina, California, west of the Rockies. Danny, your question.
Hi, George.
Hey.
I had a question for your authors. If they is nanobiotech possibly trying to mirror something natural, and would that natural thing be on Earth or outer space be able to combat what it's capable of doing?
Okay, who wants that? Bob, Eric?
Well, I mean, I almost follow the question. Is our nanotech biology interests working on what?
Mirroring something natural that we find in the nature.
Mirroring something natural, okay.
If it is so, could that natural being of any type possibly combat what they're fighting?
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, you can create organisms that do battle with each other. I mean, there's a whole drama under the microscope. And so you can think of offense and defense, and a strong offense gives you a strong defense. So yeah, I mean, and the best places to look for a lot of stuff you want to do in the laboratory is you're inspired by nature. So I'm sure the nanobiotech industry is looking at nature and coming up with ways to play with this stuff.
Tell me more about this international bioweapons mafia. How big is it?
Well, I mean, basically, this was a term that Dresch used for those who were profiting from a germ warfare explosion. And for him, you could be a university professor and be in the mafia. You could be a government researcher and be in the mafia. You could be a spook and be in the mafia, and you could be a corporate leader and be in the mafia. But the most exotic thing he discovered is that a group of European members of this so-called mafia, industrialists, some with scientific background, would hold meetings every so often at a castle in Europe, and this was run by an industrialist. His name was Hans Blücher, and basically, Bob, where was this castle?
Actually, it was a resort that they bought, and this was part of the what was revealed by Dr. Death. This was a resort on the border of Luxembourg, I believe, Belgium, and France, and it was a place where these specialists in biowarfare from all around the world, some of them were supposedly enemies, would come together for these retreats where they would share information and technology and party as well. So.
Let's go to Anonymous. He obviously doesn't want us to know who he is or where he is, but let's find out why. Go ahead.
Morning, gentlemen. I have a relative that works with FEMA's DMAT, one of their DMAT disaster medical assistance teams. When they responded, this particular team had responded to keep the emergency room open at UTMB in Galveston during Hurricane Ike. They were used to stabilize and take people out. And apparently, I'm not sure how long into the disaster it was, but at some point, 4 people had been found staying in the hospital, and apparently a level 4 biohazard lab that no one knew about. And I'm not sure exactly how far into it was, but when my relative called in about it, within about 3 hours, a couple of helicopters flew in. I think he said that they were Pave Hawks. Basically came in. There was some uniformed personnel came in. It didn't have any signage whatsoever, no patches, no name tags or nothing. And they had everybody out, and they were armed and all that. So I do have some names I could give you two gentlemen. See if you want to follow it up a little further on. I don't want to give my name, obviously, but if you want some additional information, like names, if you want to try to investigate this further, I can do that for you.
Yeah, why don't you, Mr. Anonymous, why don't you send it to our website, www.anthraxwar.com, and we'll get it.
And I just want to make sure that this took place in Texas?
Galveston.
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah, a lot of spooky stuff in Texas as well that we looked into ourselves. So very interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You never know what kind of information you'll get.
Absolutely.
Darrington, Washington. Karen, it's your turn on Coast to Coast. Hi, Karen.
Hi, how are you?
We're well, thanks.
Oh, my. I just want to know if you ever have heard of the Idaho Observer. I have a report here stating that once that we have got into level 6, that is now declared medical martial law. And stating an article here which requires communities' compliance through ignorant-induced fear, in which they're keeping it very much undercover, but level 6 brings that into medical martial law due to the BioShield 2. And this is what FEMA, the secret government, along with Homeland Security, Pandemic Planning V1, is being used and implemented.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Fear Incorporated is what it's all about. And
it is, you're right.
And this is fearful stuff.
You know, on one hand, one would think, well, maybe we should be prepared. You know, Katrina was a disaster. Look what happened in New Orleans. They had no idea what they were doing. So maybe they're starting to get their act together. One would think that would be great, right? But then,
I think so, yeah.
But then on the other hand, we don't trust them.
Well, I mean, basically, I think there are a lot of good-hearted people who believe they're doing, wonderful work, coming up with vaccines, for a terrorist attack or something. It's noble work. The problem is the lack of public understanding of what is actually it is that these folks are doing. And I think, and we're not alone in this, a growing movement of people are coming to think that we have to have transparency, we have to have sunshine on this stuff. If we're open about it and the rest of the world is open about it, then our worst fears about what the other guys are doing in their labs will be overcome. I mean, it's a very dicey issue, but fear is very strong here, and we shall see.
Absolutely.